In this video we take a look at the chenille stitch. Stay with me and I'll show you how. The chenille stitch is a combination of peyote stitch and indibella or herringbone stitch. We have alternating rows of different beads which give us this nice lacy pattern which looks a bit like a 4-petaled flower. So let's get started. For this I will be using these size 8 seed beads in gold and these size 10 seed beads in brown. I also have a stop bead. I threaded my needle with about an arm span of thread. I take my stop bead, bring this down, leaving about a 6-inch tail which we can weave in later. I come back up through the bead, locking it in place, which will stop the other beads falling off. Now for this stitch we will need to pick up beads in sets, and a set consists of 1 gold, 1 brown and 1 gold. I keep picking those up, 1 gold, 1 brown, 1 gold, and we pick up as many sets as we need until we reach the desired width of our piece. For example, if I want to make a bracelet with a width of 1 inch, I'll pick up 1 inch worth of beads. So when we're done, we should have a gold bead on each end, and between a brown bead with 2 gold beads in between. I've picked up 5 sets, and to start off our next row, we pick up 1 brown, 1 gold. We skip over the first gold bead and we sew through the brown bead after it. Now we pick up gold beads and sew through the brown beads. So we pick up 2 gold, we skip over the 2 gold and we sew through the brown. Pick up 2 gold, skip over the next 2 gold and sew through the next brown. Pick up 2 gold, skip over the next 2 gold and sew through the next brown. Pick up 2 gold and we skip over the next 2 gold through the next brown, and we've reached the end of the row, so we sew through that last gold. To start off our next row, we pick up a brown and a gold. We skip over that first gold, we sew through the brown and through the next gold bead. Now we begin our next row where we pick up brown beads and sew through the gold beads. We pick up a brown, we're coming out of this bead, we sew through the next gold bead and the one after it. We pick up a brown, and coming out of this gold bead, we sew through the next 2 gold beads. Pick up a brown, coming out of this gold bead, we sew through the next 2. We pick up a brown, and we sew through these last 2 gold beads. Now we begin our next row, we pick up 2 golds, skipping over the 2 golds, we sew through the next brown. Pick up 2 golds, sew through the next brown. 2 golds, and through the next brown. 2 golds, and through the next brown. Now I've come to the end of the row and we've got to add on 2 more beads, but we also want to change direction so we can come back down. So we sew down through those 2 gold beads from the previous row. We pick up 2 golds and we sew back through those last 2 gold beads from the last row. And to get us into position for the next row, we sew through that first gold bead. Now for our next row, we pick up browns and sew through the gold. 1 brown, through 2 gold, 1 brown, through 2 gold, 1 brown, through 2 gold, 1 brown, through 2 gold. At the end of the row, we pick up 1 brown bead and we sew through that last gold bead. And from here we repeat those last 4 rows. So let's see those again. We pick up 1 brown, 1 gold, we skip over the first gold and sew through the brown. Pick up 2 gold and sew through the next brown. 2 gold, through the next brown. Carry on until you reach the end of the row. And at the end of the row, we pick up 2 golds and we sew through that last brown bead and that final gold bead. To start our next row, we pick up a brown and a gold. We skip over this first gold bead, sew through the brown bead and the next gold bead. Now we pick up brown beads and sew through the golds. 1 brown, through 2 gold, 1 brown, through 2 gold, 1 brown, through 2 gold, 1 brown, through those last 2 gold. Now we begin our next gold row, 2 gold, through the brown, and we carry on along the row, picking up 2 gold and sewing through the brown until we reach the end of the row. And when we've come through that last brown bead in the row, we sew down through those last 2 gold beads in the previous row. And to finish off the row, we pick up 2 gold and sew back through those 2 gold from the previous row. And to get us into position for the next row, we sew through that first gold bead. Now in this row, we pick up browns and sew through 2 gold. And we carry on along the row, picking up a brown, sewing through 2 gold until we reach the end of the row. And at the end of the row, we pick up our last brown and sew through that last gold bead. As our pattern begins to take shape, we can see at the edge, between each brown bead, there are 2 gold beads. This should help us remember where we are in the pattern repeat. So let's go over those 4 rows again. Here we have 2 gold beads after this brown bead on the side, so we need to add another brown. So we start off our first row with a brown and a gold, and we skip over the first gold and sew through the next brown. And for the rest of the row, we pick up 2 golds and sew through the browns. And when we come to the end of the row, we sew through that last brown and the last gold from the previous row. Once again, we have 2 gold beads after this brown bead on the side, so we need to pick up another brown. So we begin row 2 by picking up a brown and a gold, and we sew up through the brown bead and the next gold bead. And for the rest of the row, we pick up a brown and sew through 2 gold. And now we only have 1 gold bead after this brown on the side, so we don't need to pick up another brown. So to start row 3, we pick up 2 gold and sew through the next brown. And carry on along the rest of the row, picking up 2 gold and sewing through the brown. And when we come to the end of the row, we sew through that last brown and those last 2 gold from the previous row. And to finish up row 3, we need 2 more gold. And we sew back through those 2 gold from the previous row. And to get into position for row 4, we sew up through that first gold bead. And for row 4, we pick up browns and sew through 2 gold. And pick up browns, sewing through 2 gold. And at the end, we pick up our last brown and sew through that last gold. And then start again from row 1. That's it. Keep on repeating those 4 rows until you reach your desired length. And that's how to do the chenille stitch.